Hello and welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I'm Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping and wholesaling houses in New York, or if you're already doing it, how to grow your business. So we got a question today. Should a real estate investor try to be debt-free? That's a super interesting question, really interesting. The question is, what even does debt-free mean? So listen, obviously, in my opinion, if you have unlimited resources, of course you should be debt-free. Why would you want to be bothered by debt? Debt stinks, but debt is a tool that can be used to acquire real estate and to really do everything, right? But you have to use debt wisely. So if you stay to the end, I'll sort of talk to you about using debt, the ways that I use debt. But let me talk to you about what it means. Most people are going to need debt to buy properties, certainly the first properties, right? Let me tell you, the first property that I bought, I took a hard money loan on it, and we used some of my money. I had a partner. I used some of his money. We borrowed other money for it, and we got horrible terms on our loan. His first deal. I think we paid 16% plus 6 points, some crazy number. But in the end, we made money on the deal, and it got the whole business started. So I think debt is a very important tool. So it's difficult in New York specifically, as opposed to other places, because the purchase prices are so high that it's more difficult to find people who are going to be able to write a check to fund the entire amount, the entire loan. And I think that is really the way you should go if you can, which is to have one private investor fund an entire deal. Garbage trucks outside, I apologize if you're hearing them. That is the best way. It's the simplest. It's not the way I started, right? When I started, I used to take a hard money loan on every deal, and then I'd have a private lender who would fund the gap. The problem was that every time I sold a property, I was paying we were paying the hard money lender this huge amount of interest, and they were paying the investor this huge amount of profit, and it wasn't great. But that was what I realized after I did about 15 deals. So you need to determine, and it got me started. So I can't knock it so much. Oh, thank God, the garbage truck's moving. I can't knock it so much because it got things going. But if you have somebody who has the means to fund an entire deal and the construction for it, so the purchase, the closing costs, and the construction, that is the best way to go, right? One first lien mortgage, or you write them into the operating agreement, and that protects their interests. That is the best way to do it. If not, you can try my way, which is more expensive, but it got us going. So debt is important. So there are very, very, very successful, large-scale commercial real estate guys. A lot of them have a ton of debt. In fact, many of them buy properties, expensive properties, large multifamilies or commercial properties, and they'll never sell them because they just keep refinancing them, right? The values keep going up as the rents go up, and valuations rise. And they'll just refinance, because when you refinance a property like that, it is not a taxable event. So if you can take out $5 million I remember I had a cousin who was a very successful guy, owned a lot of parking lots. He's like, I'm never going to sell. I am just going to refinance, and that's how I make my money. So take a few $1 million out of this parking lot, take a few $1 million out of this building, and then when he dies, then you get a step up in basis, unless they change the laws, which they might, and then his kids can then sell the property and not pay any capital gains tax because and not have to pay capital gains tax on all the money that he took before, right? Because he just kept refinancing, and when you refinance property, it is not a taxable event. So that's a trick that a lot of old Jewish super wealthy guys taught me, but I don't follow that, right? So I have no problem owning debt on a property. I'm a short-term flipper, so I have no problem having debt on a property, as long as I figured in what the costs are going to be. And I've had situations. I had a property once. The project took 2 years, which was like 18 months longer than I thought, and the interest cost was over $100,000, right? And the property was like break even. So we made some money on it, but holding it such a long time sucked. So on some level, I wish I didn't have that debt, and it was hard money debt, so it was expensive. But what I did in that case, and what happened every time, is I went to the lender and I said, listen, dude, I'm really getting slaughtered on this. Can you give me a break? And he gave me like a $20,000 break on it. He still made $80,000 in interest. But I'm saying, so that's something that you can do on occasion. If you're paying a guy $80,000 in interest, he's happy, right? Deal's getting his principal back. So you can negotiate. But so I'm a big believer in using debt. as opposed to using your own money, if that's really the question. Now, let me explain. So I have a student right now, and he's got some money. He just sold a franchise, and he was buying a property, and he said he's going to use his money. I said, it's a mistake to use your money. Now, why? Why is it a mistake to use your money? I said, because if you get another deal the day after, you're not going to look at it the same way, right? If you had that cash, you may jump into a deal. And the truth is, he actually bought the property using his own money, and is going to have to refinance out because he has another deal coming, and it makes things complicated. So my goal is only to use your own money when you have to. If you have an option of using debt, other people's money, I would do it. I would do it every time. Obviously, I don't have unlimited resources. If I had unlimited resources, if I had $100 million in the bank, I might not, right? I might use my own money to buy properties and sell them. But I'm always a believer that if I get 10 great opportunities tomorrow, I want to close on 10 great opportunities. And I don't want to be uncomfortable with how much cash I put in there, right? I'd much rather put less cash in there, borrow the money, and make a little less, knowing that I can do that. It's a repeatable, scalable process, right? I'm a big believer in being repeatable and scalable. So there's a lot of things people do. Like when I started doing business about 10 years ago, I was gut renovating, buying properties at auction and gut renovating them. And we got to a point where we had a lot of properties. I don't know, we had 15, 17 properties. And I wanted to blow my brains out. I could not manage all the rehabs, right? I couldn't manage the contractors. I had materials going to the wrong property. People weren't telling me. And I said, and this is something that happens a lot. People don't talk about it, but sometimes you get what you ask for and then you realize it's not what you want. I remember, just completely off topic story, but I was in the mortgage business for a long time. And right around the crash, we went to look at a company that someone had asked us to look into. And their problem was, believe it or not, that they had too much business. They had created a system where when they got to a certain level of business, they could not handle it, right? And then when asked what they needed, every time they said it was just more business. Just give us more business and we'll be good. But when they got to that point, they just couldn't handle the business. And they had loans that weren't closing. People went to loans closed and the wires weren't sent. They didn't have enough warehouse capacity. They just couldn't do it. So I would say, maybe 2017, I got to a point where I had so many rehabs, which you would think would be great. I had, more than a dozen rehabs, like 15, 16, I forgot what it was, maybe 17 rehabs. And I wanted to shoot myself, right? Contractors were not performing. Contractors were disappearing. Materials from one house was going to another house, and the contractor didn't tell me. And stuff that was simple, like we had 3 properties that should have been listed for sale, but they weren't because of stupid little things, and the contractors weren't doing them because they were angry about someone who worked for us said something that they didn't like. Like the amount of bullshit and politics that went into it was crazy. So at that point, was when I really started pushing myself towards going direct to seller and trying to wholesale things and wholesale them, which is what I've been doing for the last 6 years. Because I think that's a much more scalable business, right? I have a lot of balls in the air on a lot of deals in my pipeline, but I don't have to worry about managing contracts or managing municipalities, right? We had to get permits in all these different villages and all these different towns, and those took forever, and we would send in the wrong paperwork on one of them, but I don't have to do that if I'm wholesaling property. So about half the properties that I think I just froze. About half the properties that I go into contract now, I wholesale, which means I just assign the contract, and the other half I close on, but I'm not doing major work to it. I'm doing minor work to it. Sometimes I'll do major work to it, usually not. And for me, it's a much more scalable business. It's much better for my head. I'm not going bananas managing a pipeline of deals if I don't own them. I own now 4 properties that I'm going to have to get tenants out of, but that's a different property. That's different. I sort of figured that in when we bought them, so that was something that we figured. But my advice is, if you really have unlimited resources, if your grandfather says I got $100 million to lend you, then I would be much happier not using debt. But I think that for most people, including me, debt is a very important tool that you need to accomplish what you want to accomplish in the real estate business. Now, I hope this was helpful. If you're interested in all the ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you are interested in my course that teaches how to do what I do, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. If you're interested in finding out more about one-on-one coaching, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on any channel, please click the thumbs up. The likes really help my SEO, my search engine optimization. And please keep the comments coming. I try to post 5 times a week. I post almost every week 5 times. and I don't have always topics to. I can't even remember what to talk. I can't even think about what to talk about. So you can make any comment you want. It doesn't even have to be about the video you watch. If it's a simple comment, I'll just give an answer to it. If it's something that I've covered recently, I'll just send a link to the video on it. If it's something new, I'll do a new video on it. So thank you very, very much for watching.